Hey y'all, Barley here, and today I am kicking off a brand new mini-series starring the ATR and a much more helpful co-pilot. This new series is kind of a day in the life of some of my pilots. I'm going to fly one of our busiest ATR routes in OnAir, a heavy metal. So this is a mini-series underneath the bigger heavy metal series. We're going from Grand Cayman to Mexico City with stops in Cozumel and Cancun. And we're going to fly it like the crew would. Turnarounds, the whole bit. I'm going to chunk them up into separate videos and put them into a playlist so they're a series. But I'm going to fly them in a straight chain. I'm going to fly from here to Mexico City with 2 stops in one chain. And then I'll do the reverse route in another. And then next week, I'm going to do our Grand Cayman through Bahamas route that has stops in Key West and Marathon. Enough jibber jabber. I have a co-pilot handling the radios and the checklists, so it'll be more of a multi-crew effort, and we're going to see how this goes. Enough jibber jabber. Really, this time. Let's kick this pig. But it is 6:30 in the morning, and we're going to prepare for a full day. And introducing review set, the Toby eye tracker. You've probably seen videos with it. I finally got one for my birthday. The Toby eye tracker is absolutely amazing. It does both head and eye tracking, but there's some things you should know about it before deciding to purchase it. I'll get to those in cruise. On this flight, Mary and I are going to get this plane into the air and start a long day of on-air jobs. So Mary, if you would please, start the before start checklist.
Starting the before start checklist. Parking brake.
Set.
3 gear pins.
Onboard and stowed.
Circuit breakers.
In.
Battery switch.
Off.
External power.
Off.
Engine control knob.
Off.
Exterior lights off except beacon.
Check.
Ice protection.
Off.
Landing gear lever.
Down.
Power management to takeoff.
Check.
Gust lock.
On.
Power levers to idle.
Check.
Condition levers to shut off.
Check.
Trim switches centered.
Check.
Tail prop removed and on board.
Check.
Exterior doors closed.
Check.
Pre-flight checks completed. Ready to start engines.
Ready.
Battery switch.
On.
Battery volts 23.
Check.
External power.
On.
Want me to get our clearance?
Yes.
Okay.
Owen Roberts Tower Barley 01 IFR to Cozumel ready to copy.
Barley 01 is cleared to Cozumel Airport as filed. Takeoff runway 08 climb and maintain 9,000 feet. Departure frequency is 128.1 squawk 5103.
Barley 01 cleared to Cozumel Airport is filed. Takeoff runway 08 climb and maintain 9,000 feet. Departure on 128.1 squawk 5103.
Barley 01 read back correct. Contact ground on 118.0.
Back to the checklist.
Engine 1 fire protection test.
Still working out all the idiosyncrasies in the checklist thing, but it works really good unless you try to get too fancy with it. Check.
MFC faults clear.
Check.
TLU set to
Check.
off. Landing gear
Check.
indicators 3 green. Exterior door indicators.
Check.
Fuel system test. Fuel pumps.
On.
Prop brake ready.
Check.
DC generators.
Set.
Hydraulics.
On.
AC wild generators.
Set.
Ice protection.
Off.
No devices and fasten seat belt signs.
On.
Emergency lights armed.
Check.
Annunciator test.
Check.
Lead air.
Set. On.
O2 off.
Check.
O2 pressure above 1550.
Check.
Compartment smoke test completed.
Check.
Engine 2 fire protection test completed.
Check.
Anti-skid fault extinguished.
Check.
Stick pusher fault extinguished.
Check.
Radar set to standby.
Check.
FMS initialized.
Take our GPS position and copy that into our current position. Initialize, return. Flight plan. I'm going to do this one manually. I may use the ATR sim brief export for the other two, but we'll do this one by hand. And after Mambi, it's an airway. And we get off at Aluba. And and we need our after Aluba. This Aluba 1C is the arrival. We're expecting VOR DME runway 12. Well, it'll be Aluba 1C via the cesium transition. Alright. I'll check for discontinuities, and we'll clear those. Alright. And the blue is our missed approach. Simple procedure. I'll have to check the chart if that's the whole thing. But it might be just a hold at CZM. I don't know. I'll have to look. Alright, now for performance. She got the clearance. And 9,000. While I was messing with the lights, I couldn't see. I think we're done with flashlight. Performance initialization. Cruise altitude is 16,000 feet.
FMS initialized.
Oh, thank you. I'm working on it. And our alternate. And at 7,000 feet. Okay. There we go. Now our weights. Zero fuel weight is 43,700. Fuel on board. It's 4,100. Takeoff trim is 1 up. Here. One up. Okay. R111 V2, which is single engine climb performance, and V2 plus 5 is our normal after takeoff climb initial thing. Average wind 353 at 14. Okay, that's first 110. That's all done. Set up our VOR stuff for the departure. Mamby 2. 15.6. Oh, and while we're here, let's set up. Where's the? I don't see. Where's my? I need charts. That's the arrival. Runway 12, and we need an approach. VOR DME 1. Now we have charts. $112.5. There we go. All right, and then our. Oh, while I have set up the VOR, I haven't set the course for it. 080 according to the departure chart. Go. Now it's set up. Back to FMS. Just in case the FMS takes a crap, we can take care of things anyway. Of course, let's see. For our takeoff heading, we want runway heading, which is 081 for runway 8. Alright, 1. And then speed will be automatically dealt with. And our initial altitude is 11,000 according to ATC. Clearance. No, it was 9,000. Yes, it was 9,000. Interesting. Okay. 9,000, so that's set on altitude. All right, repeat. Repeat.
FMS initialized.
Check.
Departure VOR.
Set.
Departure heading.
Check.
Departure altitude.
Set.
FGCP modes.
Oh. Heading with nav armed. IS with alt select armed. Set. Check.
Speed target set to auto.
Check.
Before start checks complete, ready to start the engine start list.
Begin.
Exterior door unlocked, indicators extinguished.
Check.
Shocks removed.
Check.
CDLS locked.
The cockpit door locking system. Check. Boy, she's not listening today. Check.
PEC fault light extinguished.
Check.
EEC fault light extinguished.
Check.
Ready to start the left engine.
Ready.
Engine start control.
Set.
Engine 1 starter.
On.
Engine 1 conditioned to feather at 10% NH.
Your
Check.
flight will be monitored
ITT
until
oil
you
pressure
land
and temperature
shut
within
down the
limits.
engines.
Check.
Engine 1 starter off at 45% NH.
Check.
Engine start control.
Off.
External power off.
Check.
Generator 1.
On.
Ground power unit disconnected.
Check.
Ready to start number 2.
Ready.
Engine start control.
Set.
Engine 2 starter.
On.
Engine 2 conditioned to feather at 10% NH.
Check.
Engine 2 starter off at 45% NH.
Check.
Generator 2.
On.
Engine start control.
Off.
ITT and oil within limits.
Check.
Startup checks complete. Ready to start pushback list.
Begin.
Nose wheel steering.
Off.
Request pushback.
Request pushback.
Requesting pushback.
Check.
Com door closed.
Check.
Prop brake.
Off.
Condition levers auto.
Check.
Pitot heat.
Off.
TRU.
Gotta wait for the AC Wild system to kick on. There we go. On.
Position taxi and strobe lights.
On.
FGCP.
Set.
Anti-skid test.
Check.
Flaps 15.
Check.
MFD to navigation mode.
Check.
Transponder set and on.
Check.
Pushback checks complete. Should I start the before taxi list?
Yes. Yes. Begin.
Nose wheel steering.
Stop pushback.
Stopping pushback.
Repeat.
Nose wheel steering.
On.
Checklist complete.
Alright. We'll let him get out of the way and then we'll release the parking brake, test our brakes, and get out of here. Alright, parking brake
Before
off.
takeoff checklist. Test brakes.
Check.
Takeoff configuration test.
Check.
Takeoff briefing.
Alright. We're gonna use normal takeoff power, which would be notch takeoff settings. Anything substantial happens before V1, I will reject the takeoff. Anything substantial happens after V1, then we will continue the takeoff, pull up the gear, Climb to pattern altitude and then coordinate an emergency landing. Check.
Advise cabin crew.
Don't really have a phone, so we'll just do this. Check.
Owen
MFD in
Roberts
navigation
ground
mode.
Barley 01 with Echo ready to taxi IFR.
Barley 01 taxi to and hold short of runway 08 via taxiway cross runway 08. Contact tower on 118.0 when ready.
Taxiing hold short runway 08 via taxiway cross runway 08 Barley 01.
Check.
Gust lock.
Off.
Flight controls free and responsive.
Helps. Check.
Rudder indicator centered.
Check.
FGCP.
Set.
Target speed set to auto.
Check.
At the correct runway.
We'll be in a minute. Zero 08. Check.
Takeoff clearance.
That's your job.
Owen Roberts Tower Barley 01 at runway 08 ready for departure IFR to Cozumel.
Barley 01 altimeter 29.9er 11055 at 11.
One's
Cleared for takeoff runway 08.
Cleared for takeoff runway 08 Barley 01.
all right. 55. That's going to be from the left at 1. All right. Check.
Lead valves.
On.
Landing lights.
On.
Checklist complete.
Start the takeoff checklist.
Starting takeoff checklist. Runway is clear.
We are taking off.
Airspeed alive.
Check.
Takeoff power set.
Check.
At VR pitch up 8 deg.
Rotate.
Checklist complete.
Airborne time logged.
Start the climb checklist.
Starting climb checklist. Positive rate.
Gear up.
Yaw damper.
On.
Trim for V2 plus 5.
Check.
Lead valves.
On. On. Check.
Autopilot.
Barley 01 contact Kingston Center
On.
128.1.
Flaps 0 at speed flag.
Good day.
128.1 for Barley 01. Kingston Center Barley 01 is passing 900 feet, climbing 9,000 feet.
Barley 01 Kingston Center altimeter 29.9er 1 continue to D0 ADF as planned.
Check.
Power management to climb.
Check.
ITT oil pressure and temperatures within limits.
Check.
Altimeters.
Check.
Cabin pressure.
Check.
Cabin temperature.
Check.
Climb checklist complete, ready to start 10,000 foot checks.
Just adjusting the checklist. The climb checklist should have automatically started when I lifted off, but because we finished the takeoff checklist a few seconds slow, it didn't automatically switch. So on the next takeoff, we'll do better. All right. We don't have anything else to... Oh, it didn't switch to nav mode. Oh, it did. Oh, no. Freaking out because we're way over here, but it just doesn't show the fact that it's turning in. It's doing the right turn that's on here. Well, so it's doing this turn. It just doesn't... It's not on the FMS. Okay, we're going to be done with the departure, so... That... So if you're probably noticing some new things. The overlay, this is the third overlay I have tested. I tried Sim Toolkit Pro first, and it kept crashing the sim, and I don't know if it's a mixture of my gadgets and add-ons and stuff, and Sim Toolkit or what, but every time I tried to use the overlay, it would go for about, I don't know, 20 minutes or so, and then it crashed the sim, so... We moved on to something called Flysim Studio, and that one's just, it disconnects a lot from the simulator. I mean, it's highly configurable, and I like that, but the fact that it won't stay connected to the simulator, I didn't like so much. I had to keep restarting it. And then finally, this is Volanta. And I'm giving it a test ride today, and if I like it, then I'll be paying for another subscription. Because you get the default overlay, what you see up here at the top. But if you want to customize it, you have to have a subscription. So we'll see if I like it at the end of the trips. So now that we've got a few minutes before 10,000 feet, we're climbing good. One thing you notice I had to do was that when I first just switched it over to climb mode, you heard the power drop off substantially. If it ever does that, go back to MCT, max continuous thrust, torque, and then go back to climb. So if that happens to you, that's all you have to do. It's some sort of bug with the knob. It's usually because you rotate too fast. If you just slowly rotate from takeoff to MCT to climb, about that pacing, it's usually fine. But if you just go straight to climb, it goes into some sort of low power mode. So switch back to MCT or takeoff, whichever one gets it back up, and then to whatever mode you need to get in. There are some glitches. Love the plane, but there are some things to pay attention to. When we get to cruise, we'll talk about those. Nope, we're already below our maximum landing weight. All right, about to hit our altitude. Sky is pretty today. Oh, that means screenshot time. Or aside. Something from here.
Stopping responding to voice commands.
Climb and maintain 16,000 feet, Marley 01.
Go back inside for a second and set 16,000 IS. All right, that's set. Start listening.
Resuming responding to voice commands.
Start.
Landing and takeoff lights.
Off.
Cabin pressure.
Check.
Cabin temperature.
Check.
No device sign.
boy, hard to see with the... There it is. Check.
Fasten seatbelt sign.
Off.
Set altimeter to standard pressure when cleared to flight level 180 or above.
That's not going to happen in this flight. 16 is our cruise. Check. Check.
Checklist complete.
Okay. Definitely nice having the co-pilot. You just have to get used to the challenge response kind of nature of the software, but it works. I mean, it does some cool things, like it detects certain changes in flight condition. Like it knew when I needed to start taxi. And like I said, now that I've cleaned up the takeoff checklist, it'll detect when the main gear lift off the runway and start that checklist. So you can assign a checklist to certain flight conditions. It doesn't detect cruise. But it does. It detects when you get on a runway. It'll you can set a checklist for that. But anyway, I'm hoping I can get a hold of the developer for the checklist reader, and see if either I can offer some suggestions or maybe even help. I don't have a whole lot of free time, because you've probably noticed it's been 12 or 13 days. But Tuesday would be, yeah, it's been 12 days since my last video. We had a couple of birthdays in the family. We've got a couple of graduations coming up. So it's been busy, and both the ATR and the factories for OnAir came out in the same week. So I had a lot to learn there. And my gadgets. Oh, let's talk about my gadgets. When I first got into the ATR, first thing I noticed is that the Logitech multi-panel, flight instrument panel, and Bravo throttle didn't all work. The Logitech multi-panel, nothing worked. The flight instrument panel, nothing really worked. The Bravo throttle, all of the joystick axis stuff, so throttles, fuel condition, all that worked, but none of the switches, buttons, knobs, lights, none of that. So I got to learn SPAD.next. So that was I blew half a day on last Sunday learning SPAD.next and then reprogramming every single button, knob, read, LCD readout, switches, all of it. But in the process, what I learned is I like SPAD.next. Because you can make a button, knob, or switch do something that it wasn't originally intended to do. And I do use that feature. The Logitech multi-panel I use as is. I just programmed it so that it did what it did before the ATR. And the Bravo throttle, the buttons don't have the original intent, so I set the switches to the lights and stuff that I wanted to control. I could not get it to control the yaw damper. I have messed with that over and over and over, so for now, yaw damper has to be a manual button press. Let's see, the autopilot buttons I have just doing autopilot, they're regular functions, but the selector and the knob that you use to increment and decrement whatever you selected. I have that doing things like for setting minimums, barometer setting, that kind of stuff, which you'll see in a bit. Oh, so we can talk about some of the flakier things. Let's see, where's my list of stuff that has... Oh, here, watch the glare shield right here. I'm going to turn on the cabin lights, which is the passenger cabin. Yeah. It comes through not only the cockpit door, but on the other side of that is a cargo area and then a cabin door. So the lights from the cabin go through 2 solid doors to light up the cockpit. Yeah. And at night, it can be disturbing. This time of day or in the daytime, it's hardly noticeable. I mean, might even want a little overhead light to deal with the shadows. Is it gonna go all the way to what we do? Oh, helps if you actually set it for 16,000. Must have bumped it. And you're noticing that this ITS speed IAS speed has changed several times. When we took off, it was V2 plus 5. It was like 119 knots. Then once I set that the knob to climb at 1,000 AGL roughly, it changed to 170 best rate, and it's been holding that. And then once I change this to cruise, it's going to change to max speed. Oh, it's already doing it. It's set cruise. Okay, cool. Oh, so when you get to your cruise altitude, I don't know. Yeah. It must be when you get near the cruise altitude, because it's not actually going. Here's another one. Doesn't always, the autopilot doesn't always go to the altitude you set. So got 16,000 set, so I'll have to use vertical speed and tell it to finish the climb. And so there's one. But yeah, okay, so we talked about the lights. Then the autopilot sometimes daydreams or ignores its current mode and just does nothing. If that happens, you just have to turn it off and back on. So learn that on a VOR DME approach, and it made one turn and then just kept flying. It still said nav. It was still magenta up here, but it just flew right on past the waypoint and didn't care that it was supposed to turn. But simply turning it off and back on, it went back to the approach. But
4.3 Barley 01. Central America Center Barley 01, 16,000 feet.
Let's see.
Central America Center altimeter 29.991 continue as planned.
29901. Yep, we're set. There's... Okay. Start the cruise checklist.
Starting the cruise checklist. Power management set to cruise.
Check.
Cabin pressure.
Check.
Cabin temp.
Check.
Arrival briefing.
Oh, we'll do that in a second. I'm going to finish my nitpicks. But you can see here, so yeah, it's basically just below the barber poles where it sets it. Sometimes it'll hang a starter during start. I started and shut down this thing, I don't know how many times, you know, messing with my checklists and trying to learn, you know, memory items like the overhead stuff. Every once in a while, the starter would hang on one of the engines, meaning that so it's supposed to turn off at 45%, and it wouldn't. And the engine would quit going up. It's like it just froze or something. It didn't freeze because I could literally abandon the startup, you know, just do the knob to off and redo it. But the only way it would do the same thing, it wouldn't start. So I just had to restart the flight, so to speak. Oh, every once in a while, the takeoff configuration tester will... So that's that button I pushed back down here, way over here. that right there. And since it didn't, if it sets off a bunch of chimes and you'll see some annunciators, as long as it doesn't do that, that means the airplane is configured for takeoff. Well, every once in a while, it'll detect a configuration issue when there isn't one. And I have searched and I couldn't find it. So one time when it did it, I decided I'm just going to take off anyway. And you get master caution and all sorts of fun stuff during the takeoff roll. But then once I started letting it climb or whatever, the one thing that didn't work was the air conditioning. Bleed air was working fine. So it maintained pressure in the cabin, but it wouldn't cool the plane. And there aren't failures built into this plane yet. In fact, that's one thing that takes it from study level down to what do they call it? Expert level. And I'll give it that. It's if you look at like the standard Asobo stuff as whatever regular level, there's a lot of stuff that doesn't work, a lot of knobs and buttons that don't do anything, and they simplify the aircraft as much in certain ways. Whereas this one isn't simplified at all, as far as I can tell. All the buttons and knobs work, with the exception of hardly see it, but it's right there. That's actually the cockpit door locking system power button, and for the checklist that's supposed to be on there, but you can't move that switch, so I just changed it to locking the door. But that one doesn't work. The circuit breakers don't do anything, and and there's no failures. So those are things that take it from like study level down a notch. And I don't know if they plan on implementing failures, kind of like the Black Square stuff does, or not, or if they plan on something different. Let's see. I think that's my list. Yeah. So now that we've talked about the things that so far have either bugged me or gone wrong, some, you might... You can see here, these top two values are very difficult to read. I mean, thanks to Toby, I can kind of lean in. But yeah, those are really hard to read. But it looks really, if you look at images of an ATR cockpit, the glass cockpit version, that's just what it is. So they modeled it the way it is. Luckily, I have my my gizmos to show me those values so that I don't have to, except for for you guys, so I can show you. I'll lean in a little, but I don't actually have to. Anything else that I can think of that don't particularly... No, that's pretty much it. All right, so the stuff that I do like. EFB is pretty cool. This is a real-time center of gravity marker. When we first were doing pre-flight, it was up here above maximum landing weight, but below maximum takeoff weight. And you have to keep it, if you want to know if you're balanced, between this line and this line for takeoff and landing. And honestly, so before you take off, make sure it's between those two lines. Consumption of fuel doesn't seem to move the center of gravity at all, so the fuel tanks must be right on CG. The performance screen, you get both the takeoff performance data, which is just your V-speeds, and landing data. So we're not concerned. We got a 9,000 foot runway and we need 2,000. So even if the reversers weren't being used and it was covered in ice, we'd only need 5,000 feet. So no concerns with this runway. But, you've seen all this as far as, everything that's animated and controllable. And then here you can set different modes. I don't want to accidentally button press anything. If you don't want to go through all the button and knob pressing and checking and whatever that I just did to start up, you can just hit ready for taxi. So those of you not as who don't think that checklists are fun, you have an option. And then for shutdown, just hit cold and dark and you're done. Here's a screen I hope I never use for anything. If I need this, then we had a decompression. This, roasted the brakes. And if I need either one of these refilled, then I toasted an engine. Yeah, I don't want to use this ever. I don't know, if they put failures in, this kind of stuff will be interesting. And the option screen, it's your basic stuff. I mean, you guys have probably already seen like 18 ATR videos, and I'll do it for those who haven't. And your throttle setup, there's a little bit to do there. I'll show you mine. You can screenshot it or pause the video here if you need to set yours up. And then a very cool thing that they've done is click spots. So you noticed when I was operating the MFD, I was clicking in certain places and things were happening. Well, the ATR doesn't do that. They aren't touch screens, to my knowledge. Maybe they are. I guess they'd have to be, because how else would you select this? But I don't think they have these click spots. I think this is an implementation by S&H/Asobo. But you can get to what it is it's all of the buttons that you normally use to control these panels. So all three of them have click spots, right? It's all the buttons you'd use to control these. But see, those are way back here. This is for the PFD and MFD and the engine warning display. They're way the heck back here. You're going to do this number because it's a simulator. You know, in real life, you know, you can put your hand back there, and once you know where the buttons are, it'd be like a game controller, and you can just stare at this while using your fingers to manipulate. But yeah, that would have been painful. Truly, truly painful. So instead, you have click spots. So if I, zoom in and out is top and bottom. So if I wanted to zoom out, I can do that. Zoom in and down here. You want to change which screen you're on? There's modes for the nav. That's planning mode, rows, regular, nav, I guess. And then all of your system screens are here. Ish. Somewhere. Or here. There. That's your hydraulics, engine and fuel, bleed air, electrics. And that's everything. But yes, that's totally, totally neat. On the PFD, if I can get over the yoke here, you have little click spots down here. And that does remind me that we want to switch to 112.5, right? Yep. Now, I'll say the most significant amount of time I probably spent learning this plane, besides, dealing with the workflow to make my own checklists. So I used a combination of an FCOM, Flight Crew Operations Manual. Unfortunately, it's the only one I could find. It's from 1999. I think it's one major software revision prior to this, maybe two. So there are certain things that I wasn't able to look up, like what this auto button does. I can guess, but I don't know what it does. But combining the procedures and checklists that are in the FCOM with the procedures and checklists that were provided with the aircraft, reading a ton of online forums, and discussing with pilot friends certain things, I did up my own custom checklist, and that's what's in the checklist reading software. But it gives me for me, some of the checklists are in an order which has you skipping around the plane. And if you've watched my King Air and Cessna videos, you know that all my planes, I have my own workflow, and it's meant to go from, like, the King Air's one side to the other, so it makes it where I'm probably not going to miss anything, and I can do it by memory. I'm working on that in this plane. I have the overflow memorized, but I reversed the way they did it. So in the FCOM, they show go up, down, and I decided I wanted to do it the other way around. Start and end with the fire protection tests and work down this way. And the order doesn't break anything. But it makes more sense for me to know I start and end at the fire protection tests, and then by memory, you know, you just come down, make sure this is auto, make sure this is clear, you got 3 greens, doors are locked, do the, you know, the fuel pump test, and then you know, switch fuel pumps on, nothing to play with here, check your lights.
Checklist complete.
Going to 123.9er Barley 01. Central America Center, Barley 01.
Stop listening.
6,000 feet.
Stopping responding to voice commands.
Yeah. You got to remember to do that, or you say certain words like check or set or on or off, and she comes alive. So then, you know, setting all this, you know, your DC bus up, setting up your AC wild stuff, and it's just easy to move through, and you won't miss anything. And then just have the. So normally I would be doing that while she's getting our IFR clearance, and then you know, I'll finish and then tell her let's finish. Then I'll have her just read the checks, and we'll just speed through it. It's already done. The next part after this, it gets into the anti-skid and stick pusher checks, and then I don't remember. But yeah, trying to work on making those things memory items like they are in the King Air and the Cessna, just to make it makes startup a lot quicker. You don't want to spend all your time on the ground. What is that? It's a white circle. I don't know what that is. That's supposed to be top of descent, maybe? Why isn't it, like, on the line? I think that might be top of descent? Maybe? I don't know. I don't know what that is. But see how time flies when you're having fun? We're already getting ready to start the arrival. That's Aluba. That's brief said thing. We come into Aluba, we're gonna climb to 21,000, then we're gonna descend towards Bareb, and then around Bareb, I'm guessing somewhere in here, it's gonna tell us to do the VOR DME 1 approach, and then go direct CZM. That's pretty much it. Simple arrival. And while we're up here, let's do the approach. Alright, so we'll go CZM, then we'll go through it at 314, so we can set that up. So let's go...
Resuming responding to voice commands.
Huh. Stop listening.
Stopping responding to voice commands.
No. Heading mode. Alright. And then we need to put it into... ILS, and then we need to set 314 on the course. .314 is set. Alright, so we can go back to FMS and back to nav. Alright, so yeah, we'll go to CZM and then 314 out at 9 DME. We'll do 2 90-degree turns and then intercept the 117 radial. 2000 at D90, and it's... In fact, it's 2000 at the VOR. Okay. So CZM, we have to be at 2000. Outbound 314. Okay. Missed approach. It's just keep on the 117 radial to DME 6.0, turn around, and then here's the hold. But then you would just restart the approach. Okay. That's fair enough. Minimums 500. Okay. Let's set our minimums. That's a little different in this plane. So over here, you have your minimum. It's both a switch and a knob. The switch goes between decision height and MDA, minimum decision altitude. The difference between those two is DH is it uses the radar altimeter to determine your distance to the ground for the purpose of calling out a minimum, whereas the MDA uses your altimeter, barometric pressure. DH can only be used on Category 2 or Category 3 ILSs. The ATR is rated for Category 2, but is not configured for Category 3 approaches. So the only time this will ever be in DH is if I have a Category 2 ILS approach. Anything else, Category 1 ILS, VOR, DME, VNAV, RNP, doesn't matter. All of those, you do the MDA thing. Now, just changing the knob doesn't set our minimums. We have to do that, and we said 500. Now you can see in the bottom right, there's 500. Okay, but it's flashing. Why is it flashing, Barley? Well, it's because this is set to MDA, and hers is not. Now it is. They have to agree, so it's not flashing now. 500 foot MDA. We're all set there. The minimums are set. We've briefed both the arrival and the approach. We're trying to stay ahead of the airplane. Everything looks hunky-dory. But I love the plane. It's a learning experience. And I know there's a ton of YouTube videos out there showing people flying them, and they do different things. Generally get in, do a cold and dark start, take off, and then land. Of course we're doing it a little differently. I've got the checklist tool, SPAD.next. I mean, I can't really show that to you, but the fact that my goal is someday to have the stuff needed so that I can have the most immersive experience possible, which would mean never touching the mouse. And for this plane, I'm pretty close. I mean, I'm using it here to, show you guys things. But honestly, to be able to, so button press on the heading, I have to program somewhere so that, if I just want to sync my heading to now. And I think a long press on the heading button on the Logitech I might have set that. The yaw damper, I have not been able to figure that out. I want to get this switch programmed so that I don't have to reach up and flip that back and forth. Anything else? Oh, I'm gonna use an old pad and pop out the FMS, so I can have it here on a little stand or something. I don't know if I'm gonna put it like below my throttles or above my throttles or around somewhere, but have an FMS so that I don't have to clicky. Again, the idea is immersion, and having to use a mouse to punch something isn't immersive. So, and you've seen me kind of start iterating through that. We're getting better and better. And SPAD.next is going to go a long way to helping me get there. A long way. I didn't know I needed that tool until the ATR came out. And the reason you have to use it, my understanding anyway. Now, why did you change? Don't do that to me. I imagine that in trying to make the date they set for themselves to get the ATR released, they decided to hold off on programming. So there are things called LVARs. I believe it's local variables. They're internal variables, getters and setters, if you will. The getters and setters that get and set those only publish to their local variables. They don't have anything getting and setting the SimConnect variables. The SimConnect is the Microsoft API that allows things to be talked to externally. So that the multi-panel, the buttons, whatever, can connect to SimConnect and tell, do this. Well, they use SimConnect because they're not going to, Logitech isn't going to try to set the panel up for 80 different airplanes, using their internal local variables. So what SPAD.next allows me to do is create an individual profile for each plane, and I can make the buttons do what I want, knobs, switches, all of it. And it is very cool. But just know, if you have toys, the ATR right now isn't toy friendly by itself. You will need to get a SPAD.next, or there's something called X's and O's. I hadn't played with that. But this is the checklist thing is probably the biggest help, as far as this plane was meant to be flown by 2 people. And before I got that checklist helper, one of my approaches, I was trying to do the before landing checklist, and I ended up going around because I had missed that, because it was a non-precision approach, and I had missed that we were too high. Now that I have Copilot reading it, that's not going to happen. I can, as you should, the pilot flying on approach should be concentrating on the approach, not reading a checklist. And these 3 flights are going to test both the ability of the checklist reader to handle situations and my ability to put said checklist together. See if I miss things, or they're in the wrong order. But it has been that's my favorite toy right now. Volanta is pretty cool. It's more than just an overlay. I mean, that's the reason I even looked at Volanta. But I can bring it over because we have 16 minutes to kill. This is Volanta. So it connects to SimBrief. So once I've done my SimBrief plan, I can just tell it, new flight, take it from SimBrief, and it pulls in all the information for the flight. It's also showing everybody else that's using, I guess, Volanta. Look at all the people in Cancun. I don't know if these are real flights. Is this real flights? I don't know. I don't know if this is real flights. It says, and I don't know what the 80 means. Not sure. Click it. Okay, Orbix. No. Okay. Not buying anything today. So they must have add-ons or something you can get from Orbix. I don't know if these have to be, these are real flights. Yeah. This is like what you call it, I can't think of the name of that. There's like FlightAware, I think. But it's like that. Okay, this is every flight in the world going on. This is not Simmers. Okay. Oh, we're south of here. There we go. But Cancun's fairly busy. We're the only flight going into or out of Cozumel. Oh, Mexico City. Is that busy? That's a busy airport. Yeah, let's go. Got lots of stuff going on there. Look at all those planes. But anyway, I haven't messed with a lot of the features in it yet. But it's got stuff where you can monitor your flight from your phone. So like if I do a stream and then decide to do some long flight, I mean the C-130s, that's like with full passengers, 2,500 miles, no problem. So that's 8 hours. If I do a stream like that, well, I'm gonna need to go, discuss life with the family or do other things if I do an 8-hour flight. And you can, from a mobile device, you can watch your flight. So if navigation's not going right or something else happens, you can see it and then jump back in the cockpit and take over from the co-pilot and figure out what went wrong. Then there's activities like they have like geocaches that they can put around so you can fly to places and pick those up. I don't know what schedules is yet, but yeah, so far looks like it might be a nifty tool.
Responding to voice commands.
Stop listening.
Stopping responding to voice commands.
Good job. Cool stuff. See what else. Spad.next. You already know that I use the FSLTL traffic injector. What else did I start up for this? Then OnAir, of course. Not doing any checklists on this flight. Or not doing any work orders, because we had lots of things to discuss. Maybe on the Mexico City flight, but I'm also going to let that one... I'm going to warp in that one. I can't do it on this one, because then I wouldn't be able to fly when I got there. I mean, it wouldn't be terrible. But on the Mexico City one, that's a 3.5-hour flight, so I'll probably warp that. And I have to cook some steaks for the family, so I got that coming up. That'll probably be after Cancun. I'll probably do that and then warp the Mexico City flight so that I'm not up until 1 in the morning flying. Not that I haven't done that before. One more thing. I can confirm that in the patch notes it said known problems. Vertical path navigation does not work with on an RNAV approach. Yeah. So when I was teaching myself the plane, I did an RNAV approach to somewhere. And yeah, the vertical pathing doesn't work, wouldn't do anything. Now granted, because I use Microsoft's ATC, I don't really ever get to use vertical path nav anyway, VNav. Because once they clear me to send, normally I would go to my, so on this, I would, 2000's my lowest, really. I would set 2000 in the altitude and then set VNav and go. Well, you can easily end up below their set altitude. I might try it here. We're doing a VOR approach, so it should work. I might try it here so you can see, and we'll see. I don't know. We'll find out how it does. I mean, the VNav works like it should. It's the ATC that does screwy altitude calls. The first call we're going to get is going to be a climb, I bet, because of that. We have to be at 21,000. Oh, one other thing that I have been confused by is occasionally, in fact, most of the time, like here, like if I wanted to preset 21,000, it's going to start climbing, see? I don't want you to climb. I want... Yeah. It doesn't actually hold... It's in altitude hold mode, supposedly. Now, what is alt star? Does that hold? Ah. Learn something new every day. Okay. Oh, we know that's going to be the next call, so we'll just put it in. Okay, so there's an altitude star. Okay. But now look, it's the old hold altitude was 16,000. It's 20 feet. We're within the 100. So won't be an issue. But now I know. Okay. New plane. New pilot and new plane. I think I have a total of 6 or 8 hours flight time. Probably another 6 or 8 just sitting in the cockpit with the FCOM. Learning about all these systems. But because failures aren't in, I won't need this. I won't need... That's the manual. So instead of, like right now, we're doing automatic pressure handling. That's how you manually do it. I won't need anything here because of no failures. We obviously won't need either of these two things. We won't some of these electrical features on the outskirts. This is actually supposed to be an emergency procedure item. The TRU, that's the transformer rectifier unit. What it does is it takes, and you can thank Magnar Nadal. His systems videos are amazing on YouTube. Look up Magnar, M-A-G-N-A-R, Nadal, N-A-D-A-L. He's an ATR pilot and an instructor. And the systems videos are amazingly done. So anyway, so what that does is these AC wild generators, so there's 2 generators on each engine, DC generators and an AC set of AC generators. These obviously create AC power to the AC bus that powers the things you see here. Well, the transformer rectifier unit transforms AC to DC and puts it onto the DC bus. Its original intent was that if you lost a generator or two, you could flip this puppy on, and then you have to turn some things off because these generators don't create enough electricity to power all of these things and all of these things. So you have to shut down a bus or two, turn some things off, and then these 2 generators will supply DC power so that you can land with lights and, you know, important things. Everything that's on the DC bus. And also on the AC bus for main electrical power too. Because you have inverters. Now, there's no way to go the other way in case these failed. There is a backup hydraulic pump though. If I can I get to it? There. Auxiliary. Now, you're only supposed to be able to use it on the ground, though. So, I guess if we were landing and we didn't have AC Wild, and this is where I need to look up emergency. I haven't spent a ton of time with the emergency procedures yet because there's no failures in the plane. As well, there's a cross feed. But that means something would have to be working. If you lost both of these, if you lose one, you can open this, or it's already open. You can that's an isolation thing. But if you lost both of these, how do you power the hydraulics? As the spoilers aren't like speed spoilers, you know, lift dumpers or anything like that. They're literally just if the plane realizes you need more aileron authority, then the spoiler on that side goes up with the ailerons. It just makes for bigger ailerons. Basically, so it's not like a spoiler the way you think of it on the like 737s or some of the jets. But yeah, but that's the TRU explaining. So normally this would just stay off, right? Unless something went wrong. But there was a notice, I think it came out a couple of years ago. It says that now you need to keep it on because there's some sort of issue with the electrics. I haven't found the notice yet. I just read about the notice that you keep this on now because there's an issue the ATR hasn't yet rectified. So you just leave it on during from startup to shutdown. We are coming up on Aluba in our arrival. But yeah, this overlay, the only thing is because the SimConnect variables are off a little bit. It's showing 16,600 whatever feet. We're actually at 16,000. or actually 16,020 feet. But I think that has more to do with Asobo, and I don't know if that's showing pressure altitude, because I don't have access to that in the plane. The 280 knots that it's showing is not ground speed. That must be true air, maybe? No? True airspeed's 287. Ground speed's 2... It's ground speed. Okay. Yep. So speed is ground speed. The vertical speed looks about right. Heading is off by 3 degrees. Yeah. We're actually at 289 heading. See if that's... Is that the track? I don't really... I want to see track. I gotta go to the FMS. So I think on the progress page. Bearing distance. Yep, track is what they're reading. So it's not really heading, it's our track. Because we've got a 3-degree drift thanks to wind. So that's what they're picking up. Altitude, I don't know what it's picking up. I don't know. I don't think that's in the FMS either. Dog problems. Ground speed. Yeah. So nothing there really shows. Oh no, I don't think there's anything in performance, is there? I guess I could whip out the E6B and figure out if it's pressure altitude that they're showing. That I don't want to. So the only thing I could guess that is to be whatever 600 and almost 700 feet off. Or it could just be that and they're showing the SimConnect variable for altitude. So it's not Volanta that's the issue. It's because S&H or Asobo, whoever's responsible for the interface to SimConnect, sending the wrong value. Instead of sending indicated altitude, they're sending something else. Pressure altitude, probably.
Marley 01 climb and maintain flight level 210.
Climb and maintain flight level 210 Barley 01.
And off we go. Start listening.
Resuming responding to voice commands.
Start the descent checklist.
Starting the descent checklist. No devices and fasten seat belt signs.
On.
Advise cabin crew.
Marley 01, contact Merida Center on 125.2. Good day.
Check.
Going to
Power management to
125.2
takeoff.
Barley 01. Merida Center Barley 01 is at 17,100 feet. Climbing
Altimeter
flight
set to
level
local when cleared
210.
below flight level 180.
Marley 01,
Check.
Merida Center.
Review landing
Continue to
elevation.
launch as planned.
Cozumel's like sea level. There you go. Runway 12, 10 feet. Yeah. You could hear that phasing in the engines. I knew one of them was out of the notch. Must have hit it. All right. Check. Oh, did she? Where did she go? Check.
Brief the approach.
We did, but we can do it again because Mary wants to. All right, we're gonna come in direct to CZM, outbound 314 to DME 9 at 2,000 feet, 2 90-degree turns, which will put us right about there-ish, and then intercept the 117 radial inbound, drop to 1,200 feet, and then we're going to do an exact 2.45 degree glide slope. What speed? We're going to be about 120 on approach, so we need 520 feet per minute. All right, 520. Missed approach is go straight ahead on the 117 to 6.0 at the published altitude, which is 2,000. So climb runway heading or radial 117 to 2,000 feet to DME 6.0, turn around, join the hold, and then wait for instructions. Check.
Minimum set.
Check.
Pitot heat.
Yeah. On.
Checklist complete.
We're all set for descent. Well, we never finished getting pictures. Our fearless crew. Well, there's Mary. And there's Barley. So Mary is in a professional uniform. And Barley's wearing what? What am I wearing? A black t-shirt and a jacket. Way to go, boss. Way to set an example. And for those of you who prefer the on-air work orders during flight, a Mexico City trip, we'll have plenty of that. So look for that video. It will be number 3 in this series. 3 of, let's see, 6, I guess. And as far as the things I'm still learning, I'd say the FMS, well, the EEC, FMS, all of it. I'm still learning with this. I can do the basics. I can get a flight plan in and find data that I need. I can change. If they change my approach to something other than what I expected, I'm able to change that. Still don't know what this white line is. Shows up on both displays. Is that like what it expects to happen for the transition, or I don't know, maybe we'll eventually be able to see what that is. The stop of descent is there, so it's not that. Where does it go? It's gone. It's behind me now. Oh no, there it is. Where is that going? I have no idea what that is. Okay, well, as long as the plane doesn't start following it. That would be less than ideal.
Maintain 16,000 feet, Barley 01.
Set for 16, IIS, throttles back. I guess we don't need to drop that fast. Like, at 35%. 2,000 feet a minute will be fine. There we go. Cabin is starting to descend. Okay, there's our altitude warning. Come back up to the notch. Okay. Getting a hair fast there. And still working on getting down to 16,000. Trying to keep our speed up while we can, because once we approach, we have to lose a lot of. We're going to lose a lot of speed. So we don't want to get there any later than we have to. Funky looking cloud. I would set a new altitude, but I have no idea what they're going to give me next. Like I said, I guess I could have tried. Oh, I meant to try VNav. It's not available yet, though. We haven't hit top of descenso here. So that there's a vertical bar that shows up when VNav is available. So I wouldn't have been able to start it yet anyway. Or I should say vertical pathing, where it looks at all the minimums in here. That's not what I wanted. Looks at these altitudes and speeds, which there's a yeah. Still don't know what that white circle is supposed to be. I know what that one is. I don't know what that one is.
Barley 01 descend and maintain 2,000 feet.
Wow, okay.
Descend and maintain 2,000 feet, Barley 01.
Barley 01 contact Cancun approach on 123.2. Good day.
Going to 123.2, Barley 01. Cancun approach, Barley 01 is passing 7,200 feet, descending 2,000 feet.
Barley 01 Cancun approach altimeter 29.9er2, continue to Bareb as planned.
Start the approach checklist.
Starting the approach checklist. Cabin pressure.
Check.
Fuel balance.
80 pounds, that's not a big deal. Check.
Verify cabin ready to land.
Check.
Checklist complete.
Marley 01, you are 14 miles southeast. Maintain present heading and altitude. Expect over DME 1 runway 12 approach via Charlie Zulu Mike transition. Cleared to Charlie Zulu Mike.
Maintain present heading and altitude. Expect viewer DME 1 runway 12 approach via Charlie Zulu Mike transition. Cleared to Charlie Zulu Mike Marley 01.
All right. So now we'll come into Charlie Zulu Mike and go outbound on that, turn around. Is that how it looks? That's how it looks. That's how we do. $240. That's fine. We're doing fine. I want to be fully configured before D9.0. My current thinking. Shouldn't be an issue. Oh, and there's the VNAV thing. I don't have any more descending to do other than on the final approach. Thanks, friend. Down here. Tangled mini cords. Must fix later. Oh, there's the airport. Oh, the cruise ship is docked out there. Come on. Well, that was missing off the approach checklist, wasn't it? I just realized. Yeah, the lights weren't on the approach checklist. So, one, let's turn them on, and let me add that now.
Barley 01, you are 3 miles northwest of Cozumel. Contact Cozumel Tower on 118.0 when inbound on the approach.
Oh,
Tower on 118.0 Barley 01.
here's one more
Cozumel Tower
glitch that I've noticed.
4 miles northwest inbound 4 DME 1 runway 12 approach.
That's the taxi lights.
1 Cozumel Tower. Altimeter 29.
They light up the cockpit.
2 at 15. Cleared for DME 1 runway 12 approach.
Okay.
Cleared viewer DME 1 runway 12 approach Barley 01.
Start the before landing checklist.
Starting the before landing checklist. Throttles to flight idle.
Check.
Flaps 15 at 180 knots.
Check.
Gear down at 170 knots.
Set. Check.
Power management set to takeoff.
Check.
3 greens and flaps 15.
Check.
TLU low speed illuminated.
Check.
Flaps 30 at 150 knots.
Set. Check.
Checklist complete.
Okay. According to her, we're ready to land then. According to my checklist, I suppose. Alright, now just... our next, so now let's get that altitude star thing. I don't get that, it doesn't happen anymore. Okay. I'm not allowed. There. Want the... No. Alright, well, this turn... So when we come back to D90, we're going to drop down to 1,200 feet. We use vertical speed. And...
Barley 01 wind 132 at 15. Cleared to land runway 12.
Slight right crosswind.
Cleared to land runway 12 Barley 01.
She's so helpful, isn't she? I see runway lights. This is a non-precision approach. Yes, I see. No, not that fast. Now, can I go Critical speed. Just tell it. No. Oh, it's... okay. I have the runway in sight. Definitely high. Alright, we got a long runway. New plane, new pilot.
090 at 14 knots.
We're just about there.
Approaching minimum. 500 minimum.
Continue.
Up.
What?
100.
We're gonna float for a while.
40, 30, 20, 10.
Starting after landing checklist. Power to ground idle.
Check.
Both low pitch lights illuminated.
Check.
Reversers.
On.
Flaps 0.
Check.
Trims reset.
Barley 01, turn next taxiway.
Check.
Gust lock.
On.
Start engine timer.
Check.
Radar.
Barley 01, contact ground on 118.0.
Off.
Transponder.
118.0 Barley 01.
Off.
Landing and strobe lights.
Off.
Pitot heat.
Off.
Taxi clearance.
Check.
TRU.
Cozumel ground Barley 01 request taxi to the gate.
Barley 01, taxi to gate 5 using taxiway Echo Foxtrot.
Check.
Taxiing to gate
Ice
5
protection.
using taxiway Echo Foxtrot Barley 01.
Off.
Start engine timer.
Already did. Check.
Checklist complete.
That's in there twice. I gotta fix that. Okay, this is... looks like gate 1. Yep. Two. Oh, looks like they got a ground power unit over there for us already. Oh, I'll get this out of my face. There's 4, and here's 5. Start the parking checklist.
Starting parking checklist. Parking brake.
On. Check.
Taxi lights.
Off.
Condition levers to feather.
Check.
Engine timer above 1 minute.
Check.
Engine 1 condition lever to shut off.
Check.
Confirm engine 1 shut down.
Check.
Prop brake.
Off.
Condition lever for engine 2.
Off.
Engine
Ground
off
power.
time logged. The flight is finished.
Repeat.
Has been monitored
Ground
by
power.
OnAir.
On.
NAV lights.
Off.
Confirm both engines NP at 0.
While we're waiting for that. Yeah, it's not on that one. Check.
Wheel chocks in position.
Check.
Passenger door open.
Check.
Tail prop in position.
Check.
Emergency lighting disarmed.
Check.
No device and seat belt signs.
Off.
Cargo and service doors open.
Check.
Parking checks complete, ready to start cold and dark list.
Begin.
O2 supply.
Off.
Wipers.
Off.
Ice protection.
Off.
Radar.
Off.
Prop brake.
Off.
Engine 2 condition lever to shut off.
Check.
Fuel pumps.
Off.
Record fuel level.
Like 1720. Yep, 250 pounds more than expected. That's good. Alright, done with that sheet. Check.
CDLS unlocked.
Check.
External power.
On. Check.
Battery switch.
Oh, it's supposed to be off, that's why. Off.
Checklist complete.
Alright. Well then, Mary, let's get this plane turned around. And it, I guess real turnaround, I would have left ground power on, but we're going to leave the cockpit. We're going to go inside, get something to eat. In reality, I'm going to go cook some steaks on the grill for my family, and then I'll start flight 2. That'll be my turnaround. And then you look for the next video, which will be from Cozumel to Cancun, and the third one will be from Cancun to Mexico City. As always, thanks for flying with me. If you like this video, give it a like so that I know to make more like it. If you don't, put something in the comments to let me know what you would like to have seen instead. And now, Barley out.